So if you'd be kind enough, really, Phil, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your experiences with dystonia. I'm sure some of the band don't even know what focal dystonia is, and maybe you could just talk to us a little bit about that, if you'd be kind enough to do that.
Dystonia is something I never thought would happen to me. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you why it happened. I don't know. I'm not sure anyone, to be honest, I don't want to listen to anyone try to tell me why they think it happened. I've heard, I've read, even from someone that in my coming through dystonia, and let me be clear, I have not conquered dystonia. I am continually trying to find a way through it. But in my process, I went to a lovely lady by the name of Jan Kagarais, who gave me a lot of information. And then I started to read from other people because I still felt like I was struggling. And I'm thinking, well, let me search out other people. So I went to someone like Lucinda Lewis, who has a book entitled Embouchure Rehabilitation. I went to other people that had different things to say about it. I really read as much as I could about it. And at a certain point, I sort of came to the decision, well, I've got a lot of information. It's a little bit like learning to play. You get a lot of people tell you to do this, that, the other. There comes a time when you have to sit there and kind of figure out your journey for yourself. And you have to kind of go at it yourself. And I've sort of gone at it that way. But I've had someone say to me that I read, or refer, not say to me, that someone referred of my case of being people struck with dystonia are inefficient players. And I'm thinking, I don't think so. I don't think I could have done my career as an inefficient player. Something else happened. And so I can't go there. Now, can the result be inefficiency? Yes. And you're trying to find a way through this. Can you get, and can it become too tense? I mean, for me, dystonia was something letting go on this upper left side. In fact, I can remember with one of the last recordings I did, an album that's the Salvation Army has released called Trilogy. It has my first CD that I did, the first LP that I did with Joe Turin. It has one that I did with Bram Tovey and GUS Band, and they were called Rigid Containers at the time. Sure. And it has a new one, which was my last, and it's the hymns, the unreleased hymn tracks. And as I was doing that, that was about a year or two, probably 2 years before I got hit with dystonia. I can remember the sound guy saying, I hear hissing. Is there hissing there? Is there a mic making noise? No, what it was this was letting loose. And I was having to let go. And at that time, I could shut it down. I could make it work. Yeah. So there was something that became inefficient where I was making my mouth tighter to hold this. Does that create inefficiency? Yes. So where am I going with this? My struggle is perpetual. I've learned different things. It's certainly affected how I teach. There's things that I did as a player that I would not do now. I'm like, for instance, you know, I was a good mouthpiece buzzer. Okay. And I would practice in the car an hour and a half to work. I'd be playing all of this repertoire on the mouthpiece. Yeah. But that isn't how we play. And I can prove that to you by you going and watching a site on YouTube by John Harbaugh, H-A-R-B-A-U-G-H. He's from the University of Washington on the West Coast, and it's called trumpet physics. He can make a glass tube that's 3 foot long and as big around as that. He can make a glass tube play a note. Well, that glass tube doesn't have any lips, but it's energized air through the tube that creates vibrancy and creates sound, and that creates a foghorn sound. And so that is what needs to happen. So when I first was practicing with Jan, the first thing she did was get me off the horn. And that's why it's retraining.
Yeah.
You can't keep, I used to say, but Jan, I have to do this. She said, no, we're retraining. And it was just blow a candle. Now, just blow through the mouthpiece. Blow through a pipe. She actually handed me straws, from big Slurpee straws, from big thick ice cream milkshake, just big Slurpee straws. Just direct the air through that straw. Throw it to the back end. Yeah, down the pipe, on the lead pipe. Just think of this as a brass straw, or a silver straw, or a gold straw. Get away from the horn. Wait a minute. I have to lick my lips. I don't know. Wait. It's like the batter that comes up. They probably do this in cricket, right? They come up, they kick the dirt, they move their hips around, they do all kinds of things before they hit the ball, right? None of that has anything to do with hitting the ball. But that's just the routine that they go through. And this is just, it's playing an instrument, a brass instrument, is air through lips that vibrate. Just put the mouthpiece over the aperture, and I would go, well, that's not how I play. I used to twist my lips. Well, I don't want to talk about that. Let's not go there. Let's just. Right. Well, the first time that came out without any air coming out of here, I was like, holy smokes, something is, that's unique. Now, how do I get to the next note? I didn't know, and I've had to retrain myself to go through that whole process. Do I still drift back into my old ways of playing? Yes, and when I do, it doesn't work. It falls apart. And so there are times, there are elements, I have to keep it very simple. Air through lips that vibrate. To keep my lips further apart, I said to her many times, I feel like I could stick my pinky in the aperture. I feel like my aperture is so open. She says, that's okay. That's fine. Because you will figure out how to make that work. Just as Federer wasn't taught, grab the racket this way. He found out how efficiency worked, and that worked for him. So you will figure this out. You have to go. Forget what you know. You almost know too much. In fact, you do know too much. Go back to being 7 and not knowing anything, and just start to play again. And that's what I've had to do.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's going to be helpful to people who are listening and watching. And that's just a brilliant, for taking us through that. That's amazing. And you must be.
It's not, let me say this, it's not an easy process.
No, it must have.
I can remember when I was diagnosed with this. I've been to see a lot of doctors, and I finally got the diagnosis, and the dreaded dystonia word came. And I remember going back and sitting in my car and just breaking down, like, Lord, what is this? Where did this come from? Now, me and God had a lot of conversations, a whole lot of conversations with God, and a lot of tears and some anger.
Sure.
Like, really? I've tried to honor you, Lord, as best I can, and yet this is the payback. And while I never heard God say anything audibly, I over and over felt in my spirit the Lord just say, just trust me. And that has been the hardest thing to do, and yet in some ways the best thing to do, because perhaps one door,
sure,
I would still be in New York today, perhaps. It's only been 6 years since I had to pull out, and now I'm helping kids down in Georgia and having a great time there, and God opened another avenue. And I don't know the why of that. I just have to trust him. And I've been too stubborn to give up. I wish I could play like I used to play, but I can play a bit. And maybe the Lord is teaching me some things that way too. And I also think that God is not an Indian giver. I don't think that God gives gifts and then yanks them away and says, ha, ha, ha. No, I think things happen in life, but God says, hang on, we're going for a ride. Maybe it's because he can trust me that he gave me this.
Oh,
Because I won't deny him and say, God, you're a stinker because of this. That my faith is still strong.
yeah. God wants you to do his work in a different way, Phil, you know.
Yeah.
And those kids in Georgia, I'm sure, will be able to be testament to that, you know. And how lucky are they? You know, how lucky are those kids in Georgia to have you there? You know, they are the luckiest people on this planet, you know.
Well, and it is such a great thing for me to be challenged. There's a guy I'm looking at down the bottom here, Anderson Romero. Anderson was one of my first students when I went there, and he was doing his doctorate, and he's now second trumpet in the New Jersey Symphony. And I can remember him saying, come on, Mr. Smith, at the end of the lesson, him and Jeff Wood, they were two of my Bulldog brass quintet guys. And I know what they were doing. They'd save 5 or 10 minutes in and listen and say, let's play duets. And I'm going, you know.
Sure.
It was, no, let's play duets. And they kind of pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And so I got as much from them, and I've gotten as much from all of my students continually as I give out. I know I do. I get challenged by them.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. It must be a wonderful place to be able to share those experiences with you. So that's amazing.